Hey kids, welcome back to some more science. Some more kitchen chemistry science. Kitchen chemistry science is cool. This week's lesson is yet another common kitchen item, sugar. We love sugar. It's in our cookies, it's in our cupcakes, it's even in fruits and vegetables that we're going to talk about in just a moment. Sugar is everywhere. But as we've also learned, sugar may not be so great for our body. But the big question I have as a scientist is, where does sugar come from? It certainly doesn't come from a cow. So where does it come from? In this week's lesson, we are going to explore a few different kinds of sugars, talk about where they come from and how they are made using chemistry. We are going to watch two different videos on how the two most common sources of sugar, sugar beets and cane sugar, are made, and we're going to bake some ginger snap cookies. So let's get started learning about sugar and how we use chemistry to make it. I have here a plate of sugar. You can see there's a bunch of different things on here, but they're all sugar. Let's take a look at what I have. This one is brown sugar. We use this in cooking a lot, don't we? It's brown and it kind of packs up into a little sandcastle pretty easily. This one right here is a very fine powdery sugar used in very special cakes like wedding cakes. It almost looks like salt. It's very, very fine. See it right here? Very, very fluffy. This one over here is regular table sugar. When I go to the kitchen to do some baking, this is what I'm using. Just regular old sugar. This here is turbinado sugar. It looks a little bit like brown sugar, but it's not. It's different. And this here is powdered sugar. It's sugar with cornstarch. We use this a lot in frostings and such. It's very fluffy. See? And this last item here isn't sugar necessarily. It's a byproduct of sugar. When the chemists make sugar, this is part of kind of what's left over. It's called molasses. Looks like motor oil. It's very thick and it stinks. It's terrible. It smells. Bleh. But you know what? We're going to use this in cooking today because this is what gives gingerbread cookies, ginger drops, their very distinctive flavor. This is molasses. We're going to talk about this too. So this plate here is sugars, but these are all processed sugars. This is not what they look like when we first get a hold of them. This is what we use chemistry to make. It turns out that fruits and vegetables all have sugar in different amounts. This apple, when you bite it, very sweet. It's got sugar in it, fruit sugars. This carrot doesn't taste very sweet, but guess what? It's got some sugars too. And this goofy looking vegetable, these are beets, purple beets. They also have sugar in them. And believe it or not, milk also has sugar. Each of these different kinds of sugars has a special name. The kind of sugar you find in milk is called lactose. The kind of sugar found in fruits and vegetables is glucose, sucrose, and fructose. They all kind of end in ose, don't they? So then you know it's a sugar. Now the reason I brought up beets, because who would ever think of sugar and beets, is one of our sources of sugar, this white stuff right here, is made from a vegetable similar to this, a beet, but not a purple beet. It's called a sugar beet. Sugar beets are super high in sugar, and scientists and farmers have figured out how to get the sugar out of these beets and turn them into table sugar. This sugar is used for baking, cooking, sweetening beverages like coffee or tea or hot cocoa, and all sorts of things. It's also used as an additive in things like pop or Kool-Aids. Those kind of things we know are not so great for us. They have a lot of added sugar, not the natural kind of sugar found in, say, just this apple. The other source of sugar is sugar cane, which is a plant, a very sweet plant that's high in sugar. Scientists and farmers have figured out how to process that plant to produce the turbinado sugar, this brown crystally one, the white sugar, and this brown sugar as well, and also our stinky but very necessary baking, molasses. So before we watch our movies, I kind of want to have a little taste test of all these. Now I know sugar's not very good for me, so I'm not going to get a big spoon and eat this, but I can have a little taste and see how they're the same and how they're different. Now, since I'm the only one here, I can lick my finger. If you're doing this with a friend or in your class, don't do this. You'll just be passing germs everywhere. But me, I'm by myself. So let's start off with this really fluffy stuff. Well, I can taste that the crystals are pretty small, but it's still very sweet. Got the castor sugar. How about the turbinado sugar? Can you hear that crunching? The crystals in the sugar are very large. It tastes a little bit like my stinky molasses. It's got a little taste in the back, a little aftertaste. It's sweet, it's crunchy, not as sweet as this one, I don't think. A little more, some kind of flavor. Let's try this one. Only a little bit of crunch. The crystals are pretty small, and it's sweet. Let's try this one. Tiny bit. Again, I don't want to overdo it on the sugar. Wow. The brown sugar is really, really sweet, like almost too sweet. Oof. All right, let's try this. The powdered sugar, which I use in a lot of frostings when I bake. That's pretty sweet too. Very smooth though. All right, and I am not gonna, well, maybe, should I try it for science? I don't think I've ever eaten sulfur molasses. Let's try this. Doesn't look very good. It doesn't smell very good. It's for science. And I know I can eat it. It's not poison. I just don't think I want to. You know what? It kind of tastes like licorice. It doesn't smell like licorice, but it tastes like licorice. I've never eaten this. It's not bad. It certainly tastes better than it smells. Okay, now that we've gotten our taste tests out of the way and took a look at our different kinds of sugars, let's watch 2 different videos on how sugar is produced. The first one is from sugar beets, and the second one is from sugar cane. Let's watch.
Sugar beets are the first crop planted in the spring and flourish in the rich soils found near river and lake beds in the temperate climate across northern tier states. Small pelleted seeds are planted about 4 inches apart, 20 to 60 rows at a time, with nearly 60,000 seeds sowed per acre. As beets grow during the summer, growers manage the crop to eliminate weeds and minimize disease. In the fall, once each beet has reached about 3 to 5 pounds, the harvest begins. The lush green leaves are removed from the plant and the large white roots are lifted from the soil. Loose soil is removed from the beets and the roots are loaded into trucks for delivery to receiving stations. Beets are placed into 18 to 25 foot high piles, which can be up to 300 feet wide and up to a quarter mile long. These sugar beets can be stored for up to 6 months before being processed at a nearby factory. During the storage process, ventilation tubes are placed under some piles in order to cool or freeze the beets to ensure they do not spoil while they are waiting to be processed. Beets are removed from the storage piles with large front-end loaders and introduced into the factory process. Sucrose is naturally abundant in the beet, with up to 20% of the root being sugar. Through a series of separation steps, the sugar is extracted from the root. As the sugar beets are floated into the factories by way of a fluming system, rocks and additional topsoil are removed. Next, these beets are washed prior to being sliced into long shoestring potato-like pieces called cassettes that expose the cell structure, allowing the sucrose to be diffused out of the fiber, creating raw juice. The diffusion process occurs in a 100-foot tower where hot water passes over the cassettes to remove the sugar. Once the sugar or sucrose is removed, the remaining fiber is pressed, dried, and pelletized so it can be sold as a high-value animal feed. This raw juice has impurities that will be removed through carbonation and filtration. Limestone is mixed with foundry-type coke and then superheated in a kiln to create milk of lime and carbon dioxide. This is then mixed with the raw juice to react and precipitate impurities. After the initial purification, the juice continues through filters and into a series of evaporators for concentration. Inside vacuum pans, during the next step, the liquid boils and gets thicker, much like maple syrup. Once the mixture reaches the proper saturation, it is seeded with microscopic sugar crystals which are boiled until they reach the right size. Then they're ready to be spun out in high-speed centrifugals. The thick crystal and syrup mixture is added to centrifugals which spin at 1200 revolutions per minute, which quickly separates the pure white sugar crystals from the molasses. Damp sugar crystals are then moved to the dryer where filtered warm air dries the sugar. Then the sugar is cooled and conditioned before being stored in the silos prior to shipment to customers. Sugar is sent in bulk to food manufacturing customers in rail cars or trucks. It is also packaged in 50 and 100-pound bags, as well as 1-ton super sacks for certain customers. Bags of 2, 4, 5, and 10 pounds are packaged for grocery stores. Over 50% of all domestic sugar in the United States comes from sugar beets. Beet sugar facilities run around the clock 7 days a week during the processing season. Once a sugar beet enters the factory, it takes approximately 12 hours before the sugar is extracted. No bleaching or chemical whitening is used during the process. Pure and natural white sugar is an essential ingredient to many of the foods consumed daily throughout the United States.
Cane sugar has been the sweetener of choice for over 2,000 years. It is used in all types of foods due to its versatility. It enhances flavor, aroma, texture, and browning. It also helps retain moisture and preserve freshness. Sugar starts with sugarcane, a tall tropical grass that can grow up to 20 feet high. When it is ready for harvest, the tops are removed, leaving the base stalks behind so they can grow into the next crop. Sugarcane is a renewable resource that doesn't have to be replanted to produce a new crop. After harvesting and transporting to the mill, the sugarcane is washed and cut into shreds. Next, huge rollers crush the cane really hard. This mixture goes down to the separators, where the fibers are removed and the juice is sent on to the evaporators, which are basically huge pots heated by a furnace burning the dried sugarcane fiber. How efficient is that? This syrup is thickened by boiling off the water. Once the syrup is cool, it is time for it to be crystallized. To get crystals from the syrup, it is seeded with, well, crystals of sugar. Just a sprinkle is enough to kickstart the process. From there, it is moved into centrifuges, where centrifugal force squeezes out any remaining liquid, leaving, you guessed it, dry sugar crystals. Now the crystals are purified, decolorized, recrystallized, and dried in a large granulator. Next, they are sized by running them through a variety of screens, all to remove any impurities and make the sugar crystals just the right size and color. The end result is pure cane sugar. No bleaching or added chemicals required. Different types of sugar are created at various steps in this manufacturing process. Turbinado sugar has only been partially refined and only the surface molasses washed off. Brown sugar contains some of the surface molasses syrup, which imparts that characteristic molasses flavor. Granulated sugar is the last step in the manufacturing process. Now that the sugar is ready, there is one final step before it can be packaged and shipped. Every batch is tested in a lab to ensure that it meets the highest standard of quality.
So now you've seen how sugar can be processed and produced from sugar beets and sugar cane. Both of those, even though they're plants to start off with, are what's considered a processed sugar. What you get at the end doesn't look anything like what you started with, right? You soak it in some stuff, you pull out some stuff. It's all very different. And we use those sugars for a lot of baking. With that said, let's remember that there's lots of things like apples and carrots and even these kind of beets, the red ones I like to eat in my salad, that are also naturally sweet. There is no sugar added to these. If you have a sweet tooth and you just really need to have something sweet, fruits are a great way to go. Grapes are high in fruity sugar, so are apples, so is pineapple, peaches. Enjoy those things because those fruits have natural sugars. And not only that, besides sugar, this apple has a lot of other stuff, like fiber, for example. That's very good for my body. There's nothing else in this that is healthy for me. It is just a sweetener, which is why it's important to limit the amount of processed sugar that you put into your body. When you eat processed sugar, you're just eating sugar. You're not getting any of the vitamins and minerals that come from eating fruits and vegetables in their natural form. So of course, it's always better to eat natural sources of sugar when you have that sweet tooth. But with that said, a little bit of sugar and a little bit of cookie never did anybody any harm, in moderation. So let's make some ginger drop cookies.
Cooking project time! Here's the recipe. Take a screenshot and print it out. Here are the ingredients you'll need: flour, sugar, molasses, baking soda, shortening, Crisco, an egg, cinnamon, ginger, and cloves.
Okay, start off with, we're gonna cream together our shortening, our Crisco shortening, which I like to get in the block. It's a lot easier to clean up, and our sugar. I need 3/4 cup, not the whole stick. The whole stick is 1 cup. So I have to kind of look at the side, and it says 3/4 cup. I have to cut right on this little line. So I've just got a little knife here. Cuts kind of like cream cheese. Give it a little slice. And then I don't need that one. And now I'm gonna plop this one. Plop. I try not to touch it because it's super greasy. It's like butter. Looks like cream cheese though. Next, I'm gonna add 1 cup of sugar, white sugar. It's kind of a lot of sugar. Remember, you're gonna eat these in moderation. Oops, sugar, and plop. It's a lot of white. White shortening, look like a building, and white sugar. I'm gonna use an electric mixer to cream them. Mix them up until they're all plopped together. Let's do it. That's it. Not so creamy, more like lumpy, but that's what it should look like. Let's move on. Next, we're gonna add an egg, the whole egg, so I don't need to pass it back and forth. Just knock, knock, open the door. Knock, knock, thumbs in, open the door gentle, plop. No shells, no blood, plop it in. And now I need 4 tablespoons of my super stinky molasses. Woo! This stuff really does stink. And that's 4. Now it looks like brownie batter. It's mixed well. All right, we're gonna set this aside and do our dry ingredients. Okay, I need 2 cups of flour, and I do have a knife this time so that I can smooth it out. Because you're not supposed to shook a flour, it'll pack it in. Don't wanna do that. Too much flour that way. Smooth. And then I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons of my baking soda and use my cap to smooth it down, scrape it down. 1, it's a lot of white in this too. 2. And now things get interesting. I'm gonna add a teaspoon each of cinnamon, ginger, I think I like that, and cloves. Oof, that's a strong smell. Okay, make sure my spoon is clean. Keep it off there. Give each a smell. This is a really dark color. Look at that one. That's fun. I think I'll put these in different spots, make a little pattern. Cooking can be art too, you know. Put that one over there. Let's put this one up there. Pretty. Look what I made. Time to whisk them up. Use a whisk so it doesn't go everywhere. Last, I'm gonna put my dry ingredients into my wet ingredients and mix it up. There it is. Looks like gingerbread guy dough, which is exactly what it is. It's gingerbread dough. This is not the kind we're gonna turn into people though, because you'd have to roll that stuff out after refrigerating it. We're gonna be in a little bit of a hurry here, so we're just gonna make ginger drop cookies. The last thing I do is I'm going to take my clean hands and scoop out about a ping pong ball, kind of squash it and roll it into a little ball and put it on my tray. See? Do that with the rest of the dough. Okay, I have about 20 cookies here, but I haven't even used up all my dough yet. So this recipe makes probably, I'm gonna say about 24 to 30 cookies, but my pan's full, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw these in the oven at 350 degrees for 10 to 15 minutes until they're lightly brown, but I want them to be soft, so don't overcook them. Okay, these came out after 10 minutes and they're all puffed up, but now they've kind of collapsed down a little bit. They look done. 10 minutes is enough. A little bit brown in the bottom. Ooh, they smell really good. They smell like the ginger and like the molasses. And they are a little chewy still, which is the way I like them. Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. See? Yummy. Should we give it a taste? really tasty. This is still pretty warm, so they're falling apart. I would recommend letting them cool down a bit, or they're falling apart. But you know what? Even falling apart, they're tasty. I give ginger snaps 2 thumbs up. Well, that's my lesson on sugars, processed sugars that come from sugar beets and sugar cane. All of these sugars have been made using plants and using chemistry, kitchen chemistry. Kitchen chemistry is cool, and science is cool.